Hi, welcome to this EstimatorXpress Getting Started video. In this section we will be going through a brick and block cavity wall. The screen we are currently on is the job summary screen. This contains a list of workbooks. The list was selected during the estimate creation. The template for this was a lean-to extension. If the workbook you need is not within this list, you can add it in via Add Workbook or using the Workbooks tab at the top. If you feel that there are workbooks you do not need, you can remove them from the list using the Delete Workbook option. As it stands, we have the brick and block cavity wall workbook within this list, ready to go. So all I need to do is highlight that workbook and select Open Workbook. When the workbook is opened, you'll be presented with a list of worksheets, and by default, if there is none within the workbook already, it will present you with a worksheet name and location box. This has already been pre-populated with external walls and the location extension based on the job description we gave when we created the estimate. I can set the default names and locations if I wished, or I can change the names to something more appropriate if I am doing multiples. As I'm happy with this, I can click OK. And the next step is to select a dimensional template. For this dimensional template, I am going to pick a double-story cavity wall. I'm going to be doing standard walls that are appropriate for extensions. If you're doing a new build, then you'd want to select the Part L templates as they contain a slightly larger cavity to allow for more insulation. When I'm happy with my selection, click Select. The first thing that will open up is the Dimensions wizard. For the walls, it is a 4-step menu. The first things we can do is we can see the height, lengths, and any openings in the walls. So I'm going to change these dimensions to what is suitable for what I want to build. I'm working off a rough plan here that has a 2-story extension, and the heights of the walls in total are 4.6. The length of the walls, if I start with the sides, is 2.5. There are no openings in this side wall that I'm working on, and the number of identical walls I'm going to leave as 1. If I'm doing 2 identical walls for the sides, then I can say 2 in that box, and it will just double all the dimensions for me. If I require any gables, I can go into the gable dimensions box. As this is going to be a apex valley roof into the existing building, there will be no gable on the side section. So I can return to my wall dimensions and click Next. The next page is my foundation details, so I can review the depths, widths and thicknesses of the trench and concrete. To mark out the concrete, I can click the Show Tech Tips box. There's my structural concrete at 0.4. I also have options there for a mass concrete. The trench is automatically plank and strutted, and there is a bulking of excavated material of 1.5, so times in the volume coming out to allow for accurate skippage. I can click Next to move on to the next screen, and I have my footing details. While everything is marked out, if I click in a box, I can also click Show Tech Tips, and this will show me exactly what it is I am filling in. I have no requirement at this time to change any of the dimensions for my footing details, be it my splash course or inner leaf blockwork below DPC, and I'm happy to be using trench blocks. If I were not using trench blocks, I could zero that option out and then increase the depth of the structural concrete. In this case, the main wall is insulated and there is a separate DPC. I can then move on by clicking Next, and I'm now on my plastering and decoration. In the plastering and decoration, it's taken the dimensions from the first page, and it can use that area to plaster the blockwork and also decorate. And as it can see the length of the wall, it can also ask if I want to add skirting board for that. Since it's a double story, it's going to say 2 for the number of skirting boards to main wall, just basically timesing the length there to give me enough skirting. And then options there for skirting primed and decorated. As I have no gables on this wall, I have no need to go into the plastering and decoration to gable. All I need to do now is click finish, and I now have a completed wall. As I have 2 of these, I can click copy column. I now have 2 of the same walls, so now I can say I have my 2 side walls ready and estimated. There is still a front wall to go, so what I can do now is I can go back to add column, double story cavity wall, select. I can then make those few changes to the heights, and the length there is going to be 4 meters. The area of openings in the main wall is going to be 4.32. This is the total calculated area of all the windows and doors that will be going on the end of this building. It's then used to exclude the brickwork, blockwork, insulation and plastering decorating as well from that wall, so we don't overorder. As there's going to be a gable, I can come into the gable dimensions subsection. I can see there is no openings in my plan, but the width of the gable is going to be 4 meters. The height of the gable there is going to be 2. I can then return to my wall dimensions and move on to the next page. As I am happy with the foundation details, as I did not change any of my previous menus, I can just click next and then next again. If I go into the plastering and decoration for gable, I can see that I have various dimensions I can enter figures into to do either a collared ceiling or upstands if I need to account for any, or I can just do options B and D for height and length to give me a triangle of plaster. As this gable end will not require any plastering, I am going to leave these options all as 0 and return to my wall and then click finish. Now I have done these 3 walls, I can also mark out their names. I can see that this end wall here is my main front wall. I can mark this out by highlighting, deleting, and just typing front wall. I can do the same for the 2 sides. I can go side 1 and side 2. This means my walls are now marked out. I can also review the dimensions that I have entered within Dimensions Wizard. I can see that my lengths of wall are correct, and that my height of main wall is correct. The area of openings is also correct, and if I need to change anything for foundation details and such, I can do that here. It's also useful if a customer returns and says that there is going to be an opening for a window, you can come back and add that dimension into the sheet directly. Now that we have our dimensions, what we can do now is we can then look at the Resources wizard. This is a graphical representation of everything that has gone into this wall so far. So what I can do is click next, next again, and I can see the bricks, blocks, cavity insulation and such, and I can from here change those to a new resource. I can do that from in here, or I can do it via my View Resources output. I'm going to do it via the View Resources output in this instance, so you can see how that works. I'm going to click close. I'm going to come up to the View Resources output button, and in this screen I now have what is essentially a snapshot of the specification. I'm going to change a material in here. To make things easier, I'm going to come up to my Views tab and select Highlight Selected Line. This will mark out on the screen in a yellow line across the rows. So if I select bricks above DPC less openings with my 70 pence brick there, I can see going across the screen, purchase unit, cost, build phase, usage factor, estimated rate, and such. I'm going to change this resource now to a 75 pence brick. To do this, I can go to the Change Resource button on the top left. Give that a click. I can now select a 75 pence brick and then select that resource. An Edit Resource box will pop up. This is asking you to confirm the usage factors and build phases. As it's a metric size brick, same as previous, the usage factor can remain the same, but I can make changes to that by clicking on the calculator here, where it says I use 60 facing bricks for 1 meter square of brickwork. If I was to be using an imperial brick instead, such as a reclaimed brick, I could change that to 52 facing bricks per meter square. As I'm happy with this, I can now click OK. I'm happy with the build phase. I can see a preview of my estimated rate, which is £45 per meter square. I can see a preview of my estimated rate, which is £45 per meter square. I can now click OK, and my resource has now been changed. I can do this with any other resources that may need tweaking or adjusting from one of my default specifications. Once I am done with that, I can also review some of the information within this sheet as well by going to my Views box here. With Views, I can show cost summary, so I can see the total cost of each individual item. I can also show quantities. So I have a quick preview of what I might need to order before I have to go to the reports for my final figures. Once I am happy with the content of my workbook and that I feel I have completed everything as best I can, I can click back and then close. I can continue to add worksheets within the workbook itself, or I can move back to the summary screen. Confirm the workbook is complete, and everything is now done within the brick and block cavity wall. I can mark this saying 3 walls, so I have a comment there ready to reference. If I look at it again, I can see I've done all 3 walls within this extension, and that this workbook is now completed. I can still go back and edit if need be, and the last date it was opened. So if I'm having to go back through a job again, I can see if there's anything that, if it hasn't been open in a long while and you're having to update it, it might be something you might want to look at. Thank you very much for watching this EstimatorXpress video on the brick and block cavity wall. I shall see you in the next section.